A decade on from his death, the legacy of pop megastar Michael Jackson remains under threat from serious child abuse allegations. Tomorrow night, a documentary called Leaving Neverland will air on Channel 4, based around extended interviews with two men who claim the musician groomed and serially molested them over a number of years. Wade Robson was 7 when he first became close to the star, while James Safechuck met him aged 9. This is a clip from the explosive new film.
Everybody wanted to meet Michael or be with Michael, and you're just starstruck, and then he likes you.
He said, you know, do you and the family, do you guys want to come to Neverland?
It's all a big seduction.
He was one of the kindest people I knew, and he also sexually abused me. I was 7 years old.
We had this mock wedding ceremony.
Every night that I was with him, there was abuse.
Michael Jackson was acquitted of molestation charges in 2005. His representatives pointed out that both men in the documentary previously testified that he did nothing inappropriate to them. We're joined now by Michael Jackson's nephew, Taj, who's going to talk in a bit more detail about this. Hi, thanks for joining us on the programme. Really appreciate it. What do you want to say?
It's been hard. It's really been hard because, you know, we knew Wade. We knew Wade very well. He dated my cousin Brandy for over 8 years, and so to see that turn of events, you know, especially at the time, he was, you know, super close to us, super close to my uncle as well, but we don't feel like our voice is being told because there's all these headlines, and so it's been hard in that way.
What do you want to say?
Just for the documentary, I would want to say just basically, if you have 4 hours to watch it, just please have like 10 minutes just to do a search to see, because my uncle's no longer here, so it does matter about credibility and character. So just take 10 minutes on Google and look up credibility.
What credibility are you questioning?
Wade and James.
In what way?
In what way? Well, Wade, they've both changed their story about 3 or 4 different times in their deposition compared to this movie.
You know why they've done that, though, don't you? And you know why they've said that they've done that, which is that they are both now older and they're fathers, and they felt under pressure when they were giving their evidence previously, and now they feel somewhat different because they've got their own children, and they feel that they need to speak out.
Oh, I'm talking about the 2016 deposition, so it's more recent, because they sued the estate for hundreds of millions of dollars. So that has been consistent with it. I'm not talking about the 2015. Sorry.
Sure. Although HBO, they're not being paid at all, are they, for their contribution to this documentary?
Not by HBO, but in terms of, because they have an appeal right now with the estate in terms of them suing. So there's an appeal this year for that.
There were other allegations about your uncle, though, weren't there? It's not just these two over the years. And one has to wonder why a grown man would have children having sleepovers that weren't related to him.
That's a very fair question.
What do you think the answer is?
You know, it's the hardest answer that I have to say, because I was, you know, in that environment. I was a kid as well, but, you know, it's hard for me to say a grown man, and, you know, my uncle was a child at heart, you know, but he didn't have a normal childhood. And everyone that knew him, you know, from Elizabeth Taylor to Whoopi Goldberg to Macaulay Culkin, the ones that he let in, they recognized that. And I think it's hard for me to say, because I know as a parent, you know, you look at it differently. You're like, there's no way that should happen, period. But my uncle didn't have that childhood, and he would always ask us, you know, what is it like to have birthday parties, or what is it like to just hang out with your friends? And simple stuff like that he just didn't have, and he would kind of live vicariously through us with that. He couldn't even go to the mall or to go to a movie without closing the whole movie down. That's a different life than anyone else, you know, has.
Should he have been, if he was a child at heart, should he not have been better looked after by the people around him to protect him from himself?
You know, I think so, but at the same time, like, even with like myself, it's like, you see the pure, like, and it sounds corny, but you see the pureness of him. You see that he really doesn't have a bone. He doesn't have that in his system. And so you don't look at it that way. I think if you thought, you know, let me keep an eye on this because this doesn't look right, this looks creepy, then yes, I would have, all alarms would have been off on that.
A wedding ritual with a 10-year-old boy.
But that's James' word. That's what I'm saying. My uncle's not here to protect himself. And so we have to go off of their word. There's nothing to say that he didn't make up that whole thing. And that's the hard thing.
We've seen the ring, though, haven't we? We've seen.
But that's what I'm saying as well, you know, in terms of he's bought me plenty of things. He's bought me plenty of, he paid for my education. And so I could easily sit here and say the same thing. I can say.
Why take all these kids out on tour with him?
He just didn't that was how he had his childhood, you know. He liked that in terms of, and it wasn't only boys, you know. There's plenty of girls that he did that too, you know.
That doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
I mean,
help.
That's not a good defense.
No, it doesn't help. But when you, I'm just saying that it wasn't like, oh, it's boys only. I'm saying that in terms of just childhood, he was looking for that companionship, and not in a sexual way, just in a friendship way.
Okay, where do you think all these allegations come from? Because it's not just these two guys, is it? There's lots of other kids as well, and families that have made allegations, and there are suggestions that money has been paid to families in order for them not to press charges.
Yeah, there's a
him.
1993 one.
Yeah,
that's the one that started it all. The Geordie Chandler.
Yeah,
that one that was for the civil case, and that never stopped Geordie from actually testifying in a criminal case. So everyone that says, oh, he paid hush money, Geordie could have testified in 1994. He could have testified in 2005. It was just that my uncle did not want to fight a civil and a criminal case at the same time, which is now illegal.
Why not?
Because when you do a civil case, the civil case should come after the criminal, because
yes, generally.
Yeah, generally, because it's almost like seeing someone's playbook.
As we saw with O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, if you see the playbook, you know how to combat everything. So he was like, I want to get rid of one, and I will fight the criminal because that's the most important one. And then they held it open for about four months. Don't quote me on that. It's 4 to 5 months, and they didn't have any evidence, so they had to let it go. But it didn't stop them from testifying, and that's been a myth that no one's combated, because our family doesn't like to talk about those things. But
sure.
We're here kind of defending my uncle's legacy now.
Yeah. What impact did his court case and then all of these allegations that we subsequently seen, what impact did they have on him as a person?
It destroyed him. I mean, I lived with him at Neverland during the trial.
Yeah.
You could see it. You could see him slowly wither away. It killed him. It really did, because it was the one thing he thought he was helping the world. He thought he was helping people. And then to see someone on the stand talking about you in a certain way, it's probably the hardest thing you can do. And you can literally watch his deterioration. He never recovered from that.
When these allegations started to materialise, not just these two, but others as well, why didn't he realise that it was appropriate for him to step back and not to be involved with young people anymore?
Well, 2005, that was the case, you know, of it. But Gavin was dying of cancer, basically. And, you know, I asked him that question. He said, I could not let him die. I just could not let him die, you know, because as a family, we were like, you know, this is how it looks. But at the same time, he was almost like, not on my watch, I will not let that happen. And, you know, we saw what the repercussions were in that case, but he just could not do that. And, you know, Gavin right now I'm not saying that was my uncle's thing, but he's living a life right now, you know, without cancer.
How can you be so sure, Taj, that he didn't abuse any of these kids?
You know, that's...
You must ask yourself that question.
Oh, I always...
Especially because you're a dad, aren't you?
Well, not only a dad,
And you've been abused as well. Let's not say who you think's done that, just for obvious reasons. But you know, you have been a victim of sexual abuse.
Yes, and I'm hypersensitive about that. And I think, you know, I always like to say, you know, if you're a battered wife, you can kind of sense if you have a friend that actually also has that symptom. You know, you don't need them to come out and say it. You're really hypersensitive to those things, and you kind of identify with it. You're very close to looking at the warning signs. I can tell you, I've been around people where I've just gotten that energy, and it's like, it's an energy that you're like, that's a bad person, I'll stay away from them. And I think, you know, if I ever felt that way about my uncle, just one hint of it, I wouldn't be here defending him. I wouldn't have flown, you know, from LA, and it's not what I would have done.
What impact is it having on his children?
It's, you know, his youngest child, which everyone knows is Blanket, but he goes by BG now. It's horrible right now. He's not talking. You know, he's the school. I mean, I'll probably get in trouble from my family by saying this, but I think it's good to be honest. The teachers are worried about him because he's
In what way they were?
because he's usually talkative. He's internalizing. Because this is the hardest thing for him because he wants to say something. His dad's getting attacked and he's not here to defend himself.
How old is he now?
He's 17 now.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's worries.
And he's got that same heart that my uncle had, and that same sensitivity.
What would you say to HBO about this documentary?
I would just say, why didn't you want to get the other side? It's a one-sided documentary. If you're going to do something that serious with that big of an allegation, why did you not want to get another side or talk to, Macaulay Culkin or Brett Barnes? Why did you not do that? That's all I would say.
What do you want to be able to achieve as a result of putting yourself out there and defending your uncle when many people who are watching will say, come on.
Or he's supposed to do this, this is his family, or the big misconception of they have something to financially gain from it, which we don't. His kids do. They're part of the estate. I'm not. I think I'm doing what my uncle would have done for me. When my mom passed, my uncle was the first one there, to basically catch me. And I feel almost honored to do this in a way because he gave me so much. And it's like, this is the least I can do.
Understood. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank you
indeed.
for the
Just stay there for a
opportunity.
second, not at all. We really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.